walking the dogs. Just wanted to get out and kind of clear my head after a couple hours of nonstop news and social media coverage of the whole Charlie Kirk assassination. And it's hard to wrap my head around. I mean, in one sense, there's Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist who, has been in the news and social media for the better part of, I think 12 or 13 years now. And then there is, Charlie Kirk, the man. And, it's tragic in a lot of ways. But, I mean, first and foremost, how can you not look at, this young 31-year-old father of two and married, to seemingly a great wife, and not feel awful for that. And the senseless part, and I think the tragic part of all this really is, what was he doing that was so uncalled for, that was so corrosive, that he had to be murdered? Do we not have a First Amendment right in this country? Do we not have the right to speak our mind and share difference of opinions? And, I'll say this. I actually respect the fact that he went to college campuses and engaged with young people all over the country to create, more dialogue. Because, I think the only way to properly heal, what seemingly feels like a broken society at times is dialogue. The less you're willing to communicate, the less you're willing to engage, the less you're willing to respect someone else's opinion, however different it may be from yours, the harder it is to find common ground, the harder it is to move together as a unified country. And, we see this all the time where, politicians will immediately seize on someone's words and then vilify that person in an attempt to, basically win political points. And I think that's, part of the problem, honestly. I think, again, I've seen this sort of thing happen multiple times. I live here in Chicago, and it's very much, a one-party town and one-party state. And, the dialogue and the difference of opinions is something that you don't get to share a lot with. I mean, if you don't believe in the one-party position, then a lot of times you're branded somebody who is, a tyrant, authoritative, whatever the case may be. And, sometimes there's positions on both sides that are right. You can be right on the left. You can be right on the right. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to vilify that person. I mean, I went to a university that, frankly, I think was a breeding ground for one type of viewpoint. And I say that having, had my own experiences, and, I got past it. I dealt with it, but it was very disappointing looking back on it that, a university, really didn't want to hear two perspectives. They didn't really want to engage in a full spectrum of political thought and discussion. And in doing so, I think you really lose. You're not a winner when you have one position only. And, I look at, this Prove Me Wrong tour, and it was an open college event, and apparently the university had a petition from both sides. That's one side that said, we don't want Charlie Kirk at our university. We don't believe in what he stands for. And then there was another petition for, we want him here, and we believe in free speech. And, I think correctly, the university said we will allow the Charlie Kirk and the Prove Me Wrong tour to come. And if you have a problem with that, get somebody to speak who shares your beliefs, or don't go, or protest it. And, again, I just think the more we talk about things, the more we have to understand one side is not wrong on all positions. There's not always a right position and a wrong position. There are varying shades of gray, if you will, and we have to come together and respect one another's opinions. Even on hot button topics, gun control, abortion, whatever other issues that immediately come to your mind, there has to be an understanding that that's the case. When I went to law school, one thing I can tell you is there was definitely plenty of political positions and opinions that people had. And ultimately, it wasn't about who was right and who was wrong. It was who had the strongest positions based on the, constitutionality, based in terms of where they were coming from. And I see people on social media now who, immediately, make it out that it's not that way, that it's, this side, if you're not on the right, the MAGA thing becomes such a toxic and corrosive thing. And, people voted for Donald Trump who were Democrats, people who voted for Donald Trump who were independents, and people voted for him who were Republicans. Does that mean they endorse every position of his? No. Does it mean they worship and idolize him? No. But it means maybe they didn't believe that Joe Biden and the Democrats who'd been in charge for the 4 years prior did not have the right positions, or they did not, embody the values that people wanted moving forward. And so, again, rather than say democracy is on the line, rather than say, our country's at a crossroads and, whatever, we have to understand that it's not going to be simply about, I'm right and you're wrong. If you have a different opinion, I respect your opinion, I'll listen to your opinion, and I'll engage with you over it and see where we might have common ground, where we might have, some overlapping opinions. And even if we do disagree on something, I'll respect you for it. And I think we need to have more people that are willing to do that. So in closing, I know this has been a long speech, whatever, but I hope that we can look past the ugliness of these things and just focus on, again, the man, the person, the crux of it, which is to say, tonight, 2 young children are fatherless, and that's just awful and tragic. And if you celebrate the fact that, this man, died and, didn't share your opinions, and maybe that was warranted, shame on you. I hope we can do better as a country. I choose to think that there are more people like me in sharing these opinions than not. And if you aren't, let's talk about it. Let's find a way to find common ground and understand one another so we can help make this a better, more productive country.